Tonight, we're going to wander into a softer, quieter corner of the Middle Ages. Not the loud battles, not the roaring kings, but the strange little trends, the fashionable ideas, the everyday habits that somehow, quietly, led people to their deaths. In medieval Europe, danger didn't always look like war. Sometimes it looked like beauty. Sometimes it looked like faith. Sometimes it looked like a perfectly normal day. So dim the lights. Get comfortable. And let's gently step back to a time when following a trend could cost you everything. The fashion that made walking dangerous. In the late Middle Ages, across cities like Paris and London, fashion became something of an obsession. Even in muddy streets. Even during outbreaks of disease. Even while most people struggled to survive. Shoes became extreme. They were called polanes, long, pointed shoes that stretched far beyond the toes. Sometimes 5 inches long. Sometimes even longer. The more exaggerated the point, the more fashionable you were. Nobles stuffed the tips with moss, whalebone, even wire, to keep them stiff. Imagine trying to walk on cobblestone streets, narrow alleys, wooden staircases, with 2 tiny daggers attached to your feet. People tripped constantly. They fell down staircases. They stumbled into open drains. They slipped in mud that was often mixed with animal waste. And during times of plague, falling into filth wasn't just embarrassing. It could be fatal. In crowded medieval towns, a broken ankle wasn't a small inconvenience. There were no proper hospitals, no sterile surgeries, no antibiotics. Infection came quietly, like a slow shadow. And sometimes, a simple fall from a fashionable shoe was the beginning of the end. But the danger didn't stop there. Churches began to complain that the shoes were sinful, too vain, too excessive. Some cities passed laws limiting how long your shoe tips could be, because apparently, even in the 14th century, people needed regulations to stop themselves from turning footwear into a hazard. And yet, they kept wearing them, because trends, even foolish ones, have always been hard to resist. Beauty that slowly turned to poison. In medieval Europe, looking pale was everything. Soft, white skin meant you were wealthy. It meant you didn't work under the sun. It meant you were refined, delicate, important. And so, people tried to make themselves paler. In cities like Venice and Florence, merchants sold special face powders and creams. They promised flawless beauty, porcelain skin, youth that would last forever. Many of these products contained something very dangerous. Lead. White lead powder became one of the most popular cosmetic ingredients in medieval and Renaissance Europe. It covered freckles, scars, uneven skin. At first, it worked. Faces looked smooth, bright, almost glowing in candlelight. But slowly, quietly, the poison began to do its work. Lead seeps into the body over time. It doesn't shout. It whispers. Users began experiencing headaches, fatigue, strange stomach pains. Their skin, the very thing they tried to perfect, sometimes developed sores. Teeth loosened. Hair thinned. In severe cases, the nervous system suffered. But here's the unsettling part. When the skin became damaged from the lead, people often applied even more makeup to cover it. More powder, more poison. A quiet cycle. Historians believe similar beauty practices later affected elites across Europe, even influencing cosmetic traditions during the reign of figures like Elizabeth I, whose iconic pale look was achieved using heavy white cosmetics. Beauty in candlelit rooms masked a slow and invisible danger, and in an age without toxicology, without regulation, without warnings on labels, people trusted what was fashionable. They trusted what everyone else was using, because if everyone is doing it, it must be safe, right? But medieval trends didn't only affect the face. Some trends affected the body directly, and some were performed not in bedrooms, but in public squares, under the guidance of doctors. Doctors who believed that draining blood could save your life. In the next quiet chapter, we'll explore the calming, almost routine practice of bloodletting, and how something meant to heal sometimes weakened people just enough to let illness win, the cure that made you weaker. In medieval towns across London, Paris, and even parts of the Holy Roman Empire, if you felt sick, the solution was often surprisingly simple. Sit down, roll up your sleeve, and let someone drain your blood. The practice was called bloodletting. For centuries, European medicine followed the ancient ideas of Galen, a physician from the Roman world whose writings shaped medical thought for over 1,000 years. He believed the body was ruled by 4 humors: blood, phlegm, black bile, and yellow bile. If you were ill, it meant one of these was out of balance, and the easiest one to remove was blood. So physicians, and sometimes barbers, used sharp blades or leeches to draw it out. A mild fever? Remove blood. A headache? Remove blood. The plague? Definitely remove blood. It was calm, routine, almost comforting. People believed they were restoring balance. But here's the quiet problem. If someone was already weak from infection, from malnutrition, from stress, removing blood didn't restore strength. It reduced it. In a time without 4 fluids, without sterile instruments, without understanding bacteria, blood loss could push someone from recovering to fading. And because it was so accepted, so normal, no one questioned it. Families watched. Neighbors approved. Doctors nodded confidently. The red bowl would slowly fill, and hope would slowly drain with it.